Today it's my very great pleasure to reintroduce to you Ashley Talbot. We did meet him last year while he was rabbit-proof fencing, and how fascinating was that. And this year he's here in a different guise, but still working with the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. Thank you, Ashley. I've got the perm. And today it's shearing. Now, Ashley has worked with Aboriginal people for 25 years. He doesn't look old enough, and with regional Aborigines, or Indigenous people I should say, for 7 years. He's also studied at Murdoch and has his degree there, and he's worked in the department for 20 years. So he's well experienced. He also has a life outside of work. He plays hockey, golf, and I believe he nearly took Kevin's finger off with a shearing comb one day, so that would have been a bit interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, Ashley, and Ashley will introduce Kevin when he's ready. Thank you.
Thank goodness his finger's still there, but we'll tell you about that story a little bit later. But thanks for coming today, and I hope you enjoy yourself. You're very lucky. I'm so glad that you came today, even though we're in a COVID environment. But so hopefully everybody's well and enjoys today. Ask questions as we go through. We're planning to go right through till 3 o'clock. So if and Kevin's more than happy, and in fact he'd like to chat to you like he did at the start, as you're leaving. So any questions, just feel free to come forward. So I first met Kevin at the Perth Royal Show, which was 2 years ago now. So it wasn't held last year. It was in 2019, and I'm so privileged to have met him. So you're in for a real treat. But I'm actually going to go straight into a video. And then I'll tell you a bit about Kevin, and then I'll hand over to Kevin. So this video is shot in January 2020, before COVID came along.
I think every student in this group could get a job in the shearing industry, because we've given them lots of avenues where they can go if they want to.
There's a shortage of shearers. When we get shearers here, there just seems to be an age demographic where you notice there's sort of 40-year-old to infinity and beyond. So we need some new fresh faces.
We had a chance that we could get some Aboriginal youth into the industry, because a lot of Aboriginals used to shear the sheep in WA. I think it's an untapped resource that we have to get people into the industry.
Myself and a few colleagues were asked by our minister to develop a shearing hub in the Midwest. Things have fallen into place fantastically. I couldn't have asked for a better bunch of people. This school's been amazing.
My role is not just shearer training, but to mentor them a little bit about life skills, and also to get them into the workforce.
It's been alright, hard at the start, but it gets easier. The shearing and the wool pressing, that's been my favourite part.
I've learned how to do almost a full sheep, and do the hand pieces and do the wool casting and stuff like that.
Learned how to take a hand piece apart and put it back together. Learned a lot of skills I didn't know, and it's working as a team. That's really good.
We are very, very focused on creating job opportunities in regional Western Australia, and it seems to us that there's no better group to target than Aboriginal people living in the sheep regions. We've had some extraordinary individuals that have been involved, providing that leadership and mentorship.
Just seeing their faces light up when something falls into place for them, and just working together in a team environment. They're all working so well together.
Yeah, it was pretty good, fun. I reckon it's going to be good if I end up doing it.
Thought it was going to be real hard, and then started getting into it and started enjoying it, and I really can do it now and make a career of it.
Pretty eye-opening, just trying to get it right.
Last week has been very good. Starting to love every bit about it.
What these kids have learned here, mate, is absolutely amazing. I've adopted them. They're just amazing kids, mate.
Been many highlights here, but just the look on the faces of these young students, girls and boys, when they've shorn that one sheep, the look on their face and the excitement that they've achieved something, because a lot of the students come here and said they can't do it, and I've changed that around from can't to can, and that's been that's the most important thing for me.
Okay, so Kevin is a shearing legend, no doubt about it. Kevin is an inductee into the Australian Shearing Hall of Fame in 2015. And he's also the third West Australian to be presented in January this year, the Australian Wool Innovation Wool Industry Medal. I don't think he's brought that today, but he'll talk about that as well. This is a prestigious medal for his services to the wool industries in Australia, for his exceptional and sustained contribution to the Australian wool industry. Kevin was born in Perenjori in the wheat belt, so I think some of you might have come from the wheat belt, so we can talk a bit about that today. And today Kevin is still a shearer. He's a shearing trainer, as you've seen from the video, and he's a former contractor, which he started at a very young age. So his services to industry is over 50 years, and he still is clocking on today. So I'd like to welcome Kevin Galletly.
Thanks, Ash. Hello, my name's Kevin Galletly now, and I lived in a little place called Perenjori. And, you know, I was sent away. My grandfather, you know, was one of the settlers in Perenjori, and he needed us to have an education. He sent me off to Aquinas. I went to Aquinas College, but I was really, you know, unbeknown to them, but I was dyslexic. You know, read things backwards and whatnot. So I didn't do very good at school. I was really, dunce of the class, but that wasn't a real problem for me. I dealt with that, but I was really good at sport. Really good at sport, and I achieved all my goals from doing other things than schoolwork, and I couldn't get away from Aquinas quicker, and I left that and jumped on a train and back to Perenjori, where I knew where I was safe. WA and Aquinas, it's a Catholic. Oh, Perenjori's up on the way to Geraldton, sort of inland a little bit, about 220 mile, northeast. So Woburn, Dalwallinu, Mullawar was on that line, so. But I was in a shearing family, if you can understand. My father was a very good shearer, and my uncles, and so it was really, shearers, it's in their blood, it's in your blood, and I was given a gift, a real gift to be able to train people and achieve things, because, if you've got a little disability, then your strength become really strong for you. So. And I'll probably ask you a bit later in this. We've all been given a gift in this room. We've been given a gift, and I'll ask you what your gift is. You probably think, oh, now you're thinking, hell, he's going to put pressure on me to see what gift I was given. But does anybody not believe that they were given a gift here? Yeah, see, we've all got something that really you've strived for and has actually helped you on your way to achieve some of the things that you've achieved. So, teaching, was probably one of the good things that I got out of, not being able to be a good writer and a good reader. I still can't read or write, but that doesn't really worry me, if you understand. I never tell anybody that I can't do that. I express that I can't do that. So that takes the pressure off me as well, because, if they want me to write something, then they're not going to ask me, because they know they won't be able to do it anyway. So and I was probably the best cheater in the world. At school, man, I could cheat because I couldn't read or write, but I could look over there and copy. Man, I could copy, and I was really good at it, but I got caught out too, right? Because, as they mark you off, how the hell can you get 75%? Last week you only got 20%. So all those little things, can catch up with you. But I took that in my stride, and I was about 17. I went and worked for a windmill company. And then I was working virtually in the sheds, because, as I say, it was in my blood anyway, working in the sheds a little bit. And there was a shearing school, happened to go in Perenjori. It was really very unusual to have a shearing school, in Perenjori. And I put my hand up and I said, yeah. And I was really fortunate, because I'd had a little bit of an idea what was required. My family, I had 3 brothers, were, one a little bit older and the other younger. But I went to this school, and a bloke called Bert DeWye is the trainer, And I carry all those sort of things with me now to teach all these young students and the things that he taught me. But I was really fortunate at that school that I picked it up. I could understand the angles, you know, how to get around to keep the bottom tooth down as we, you know, like if you don't keep the bottom tooth on the skin, that's the bottom tooth of the comb I'm talking. If you don't keep it on the skin, you're going to cut the wool in half. So the farmer wants all his wool in one piece and the sheep wants all his skin. So I realised that pretty quick, but you know, others struggle. You know, they really struggle because, you know, they probably read into it too much. Where I had to listen and copy to do what I'd done. So I was really fortunate. I was really, right from day one, I was a really, you know, a very good shearer. Just I was given a gift, as I said before, to be able to shear. And so I got that, you know, went away and I went north, you know, in the trucks. You know, where they, you know, they used to call them the ring pounder. Anybody got any idea why they might call it the ring pounder? Because on that back of that truck, you know, they had wooden seats and they went, you know, along the back of the truck. The contract and everybody sat and everybody be lined up with you know, sideways, you know, and you had your back. So, and there's no roads like we've got now. You know, it's all gravel roads bouncing off all the way to Carnarvon through, you know, Gascoyne and through there. So banging up and down, now you've got a bit of an idea why they call it the ring pounder. Right, yeah. So I'm glad that you can laugh. It's not meant to be anything nasty about it, but that's how the name of it was called the ring pounder, rightio. So, and there's actually, if anybody's interested, there is on these old timers, you know, older than me and probably ages, some of you as well here that, you know, went north. They've made a video of it. It's really outstanding. Some of the stuff that they had to go through to even get to where their job was. But anyway, I went up there for 2 years with Val and Peter Hobson, you know, around Maya, you know, Gascoyne Junction, you know, a lot of the stations out there. And we were out there for, you know, 6 months at a time, not just, you know, coming down and drive into the pub and get a drink or whatever and go down and get a coffee at the coffee shop. We didn't see people, you know, for months on end, just the team you worked with. And that was good. You really become really close to those people, and it was fantastic. That, you know, I was very fortunate to have that life. So as today, you know, we're all, you know, quite soft, you know, in our younger people coming through because they never gone through some of the hardships that yous have been through to understand that, you know, sometimes there's not food on your table, there's not, you know, money in the bank to go and just buy whatever you want. There wasn't a bank that you go and sort of put your house up on for collateral and whatever. So it's been a hard journey for a lot of people as well. So that just gives you a little bit of an insight on what I done. So I left that and come back and went to Perendry. So yeah, if we want to go on, and so a little bit of history of the shearing. So this is really a photo taken some time ago. It was good life. It's really hard for you to see, but it's, you know, a squatter's, you know, a farmer, we used to call them squatters, you know, they used to come from New South Wales and they'd, you know, come in and they sort of become managers and that, but they're called squatters, you know, they squatted not in the house, but they managed the farms, you know, them days, the squatters. So, and it's just a good little outbreak of what actually happened back. Very good scenery out there in the early days. Rightio, so does anybody know the song Click Goes the Shears? Rightio, it's a really famous Australian. So, but if you hear that song, there's no clicking. Why do you think there's no, you know, shearers going along? And you know, that's what the song was about, the blades clicking together. Sorry? They were manual. Yeah, they were manual, but you know, the two bits of metal clicking together, that's where the song come from. Click, you know, click as you go. But there's not, you know, what actually happened to a bloke called Jackie Howe, a famous shearer. Jackie Howe, he shore 321 sheep with the blades. 321. Now just imagine, you know, he'd be like Popeye, wouldn't he? Rightio, but you know, it wasn't like that. It's like, you know, a lot of you have probably dressmade or done something. You get them scissors and then you could sort of push through the paper. Well, that's what it was like. You know, he didn't go along like this shearing a sheep. He gradually closed it and got to the end of the blow, called the blow from, so we called the blow. So he actually didn't go snip, snip, snip along there. You do these days, there's a lot more wool on them. But he just gradually closed it and got to the end of the thing. So he shore 321. But within those little clippers, when the blades hit together, because it would be annoying, because you could fit a lot of shearers in when you're blade shearing, they're all scattered all over the place. So he put a little stopper, Jackie Howe put a little stopper, a little leather stopper, so when the two bits of metal hit, they didn't make a noise. So the song's about click goes the shears, but there's, people say, well, what's the clicking about, rightio? So you can see that they're blade shearing, and they still blade shear to this day. A lot of people still blade shear. The lady that's, done that beanie for, my partner, she still blade shears. She's a really good blade shearer. But she's only learnt that the last couple of years. Why did that? Good question. So with blades, it cuts the wool really crisp. When you've got a handpiece, it shatters the wool as it goes along. But there's other things as well. People, go to the shows, they've got the stud breeders, and they've got sheep they want to show at the Royal Show, right? So, but that's got that much wool on it, right? So it'll get judged with that much wool on it, but I want to go to wage and it's 3 months later. So the blade shearer can leave that much on it. So he can turn the blade and leave it. So he hasn't got a disadvantage or an advantage, because that sheep went on to waging. His wool will be really good there, and the other sheep are only this long. So they cut it off, so they're all, and they all go to wage and they've got that much. So a blade shearer can do that. So that's the reason. The only shear the sheep with blades, the real top end sheep, if you know what I mean. So, but it is a skill to be able to do that. So anyway, so that's what blade shearing. So Jackie Howe shore 321 sheep with the blades. Awesome. Still to this day, never been broken. And these are the old trucks and stuff, to get the wool to the market. So they actually put the wool into a bin, and you had to jump in there and stomp the wool down. Another box come up over on top, and you had this great big lever, and you had to pull it down, jack the monkey down. They call it the monkey. Jack it down, and then you put little pins in it and pull the clips over. And then, your mark on it might be 3 AM, so that was the best wool, 3 AM. 3A is the best, and M is for merino. So the 3 AM, rightio. So if you had a crossbred, could be still 3 AM, but it'd be 3 AM and have a cross and a B, crossbred, rightio. So all the wool, stacked up there. And that time probably wool was a pound a pound. Very, very expensive. And you heard the story of wool rode on the sheep's back, because wool was a pound. That's why they were getting it to market. That farmer wouldn't have all them trucks on his place, but all the surrounding people would have come and helped him get that wool to market, because wool was really needed to be sold, and we needed it mainly for the war and stuff like that, because it jumped up, because what did people use in the war? What did they use? Greatcoat, them big coats, hey. So it was really in demand because it kept them warm in the war. So that was one of the reasons why wool jumped up pound to pound, because it really needed the wool to keep our soldiers and people warm. So just a little story there for you. Right, and this is a real, in the early days, this would be about 1920, thereabouts. You can see the shearers on each side, and this is along there's a big long shaft with wheels on it, and they call it the money wheel. It was always the money wheel, like you were shearing on a money wheel, sort of. So it had a tumbling tommy, when you bring the sheep out and you pull the rope and it tumbles the tommy over and starts the handpiece. So there would have been, be about 7 or 8 on each side. So it was, say, a 15 to 16 stand shed. So the shed staff, had to pick the wool from way down there and run up here and get it on there and get back to sweep the floor, before the shearer had gone in, because he takes 5 seconds to go and catch a sheep and bring it back out to start again. So he doesn't sort of, the shed hand's waiting, and I'll wait for him. He won't, because he doesn't make any money. So only, when he's shearing, he only gets paid for what he puts out the chute. So if you stand around all day, you won't get paid. You don't get any money. So that's why shearers become really, faster and faster, because they want to make more money, right? So you don't get paid on a daily wage. So you have shed stuff. There was 15 shearers there. There'd be 15 shed people helping. So 1 shearer, 1 shed hand. That'd be a wool class oppressor, cook, and all that sort of stuff. So they worked 8 hours a day. Started 7:30, knocked off at 9:30 for half an hour. And the cook would bring in your smoko. That's a word they don't use so much anymore, but smoko was because everybody smoked back them days. So go out and have a smoke and have a sandwich, and then back in half an hour. Then went from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock, had an hour for lunch. Then started again at 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock, half an hour, and then through till 5:30. But the shearer's job wasn't finished then. He had to get all his gear, clean it up, and then re-grind it for the next day. So he had lots of jobs after that, whereas a lot of other shed staff and that just knocked off and went home, or back to the quarters. Right, this is probably my story now. Maybe I'm going to be a bit embarrassed about talking about me, but I've been a very fortunate person. So this is where I was just teaching some students to understand how to get a sheep and put it up. Right, so this is a mean feet here. This sheep had 3 years wool on it. So you say the wool is, that long over there. If I just quickly pull a bit of wool out here. So wool usually is about that long, rightio, about 3 to 4 inches. That's probably a little bit of second cuts there. That's a second cut, so would have been longer, but me, I didn't keep on the skin, and so I've cut the wool in half, rightio. So that's the second cut. So it would be a little bit longer, but that had 3 years, so the wool was that long. So once you got the weight, you can see how a lot of stain, we call it stain on the legs and that. So that's water and running through the bush. I was out in the station at Carrara, and I really struggled to get the belly off, because the weight of the wool was pulling the skin out, and you go through and you can cut them pretty bad. So that was an issue to shear, sheep that have got 3 years wool on, because the weight of the wool pulls the skin out, and you're going along with the blades. It's like me, the weight's pulling up, and then I go along with the blades, and it's not a real cut, but it cuts the top of the skin off. So you'd have a lot of strips along there, that the farmer didn't like. So, but there was I was 17 then when I saw that. So, 21, but I think it was earlier than that. I didn't want to tell them how young I really was when I was shearing. That wool there weighed about 50 kilos. Yeah, a lot of wool. You hear shriek and all them where they weigh the fleece, say to 40 to 50 kilos, of wool, Because not only they had the weight of the water and everything, like this is really a lot of dags and, we call them dags, but manure and stuff on the legs and that. So you can see how tight it was anyway in the photo. It was really quite cheap. So, like, how do they get someone to, have a sheep that's got, that amount of wool on them? Well, that Carrara is a station, so they've got 200,000 acres there, and they can't muster them. Like if it's water around, they don't come in for water to drink to the windmills. So the old cunning ones will stay out, so they don't get trapped. So they missed a year, and because they can go out further if they adapt to it. Because the sheep can only walk 7 k's from the water trough to the feed out there. So usually the paddocks are no bigger than 7 mile. I said 7 k's, but 7 mile. So they can walk out. If they go any further, they really can't make it back to the water, right? So, but these cunning ones, so then he got mustered 3 years later. So that's how they get out. They become hermits. They get cunning, and they probably might have found a water hole that no other sheep know about or anything, so they can stay out. So then, we say sheep are dumb, but they're not really that dumb, So. Sorry, Right, so this is my journey, and as I said, I've been really very fortunate. I got a job with Heiniger, the shearing company, in '95, and that's a manufacturer of shearing gear, manufacturer. And a lot of you are probably going to say, well, why would they employ someone like me that can't really read or write? But it wasn't my ability to read and write wanted me for, it was my ability to, when I walk into a shed, to be able to help people. So people are struggling because they never see anybody. And yet I could walk into a shed and fix any problem they had, within shearing, grinding and stuff like that. So I was really gifted in that way as well, to be able to, walk into a shed and see someone that was struggling, and just by changing a few little things can, because it's a lonely life out there. If you're shearing all day long, bent over 8 hours, and nobody else is going to help you too much because they're busy doing their job. So my job was really to go in there from 95 as really a troubleshooter for them. And I was really good at that too. I really was, I was with them for 25 years. So within that time there, I actually made a grinding, taught people how to grind so they get the gear and stuff sharp. So, just imagine if you've got blunt gear, you've got a blunt pair of scissors and someone's cutting your hair, it hurts, doesn't it? So if it doesn't cut properly and it's pulling your hair, well, that hurts. So same with shearing. If your cut's not right, it's pulling the wool against your skin and he's going to kick and fight and jump. So we try and make the cut as best as it possibly can. So really important. Just at the bottom down there, I was also involved with the safety side of it, because a lot of shearers got hurt. Because we call them lock-ups. You probably don't understand what I'm saying here a little bit, but you put a comb and cutter on. So the comb is bolted to the handpiece, and then the little cutter that goes backwards and forwards, if you look at your little handpiece, you can't move it. So that little cutter goes backwards and forwards. So you had to change that. One comb would last for an hour, then the other little fella we put on the cutter, you'd change him as soon as he got blunt. So you didn't have to change. But people didn't put them on properly. Put them on, then you'd, as I said, the tumbling Tommy, you'd pull in the gear and it goes from 0 to 3,600 revs per minute. So you can just imagine when you try to grab that handpiece, it'll lock up or you hit a bit of wire or something, bang, people got cut. So it was very, very dangerous, as well, if you weren't smart about how putting your gear on. So Heiniger and Vella developed called the Evo, and a lot of now, they're all got them now, so they've got a shut-off switch in them. So if you hit a bit of wire or hit a stone or something that's in the wool you can't see when you're shearing, then the fluctuation of the power turns the motor off. So it was a revolution within the shearing game. So I was involved, with that, with the safety side of it along my journey. Yes, any questions? Sorry, Ash. Yeah.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but...
Oh, that's good.
As part of your kit, you'd have a number of blades and combs, but you'd have to prepare every day.
Yeah.
Start, or at the end of each day, you'd have to clean your comb and sharpen your blades.
Yeah, really good question. Well, shearer would have all sorts of stuff in their kit, you know what I mean? Like they wouldn't have just 8. Like if you need 2, if I said an hour, it lasted, so we're sure 2 hours, so you'd have to have 2 a run. But if the sheep are dusty and sandy and whatever, your cut would go off really quick, because hitting dirt and sand and stuff, your cut would go off quick. So you'd have to have, back, shearers in these days would probably have 200 combs in their packet at $40 a head. So, but back, in the earlier days, just before my time, in the early days I had an expert that, you were supplied with a handpiece, but you had to have your own combs and cutters, but he ground them for you. Right, so they were called the experts. So you just washed your combs and cutter up and put in your little hole, and then you come along and ground them. But now everybody's got their own grinders. And they've taught. I've made a video of grinding and stuff like that. That's it's on YouTube as well. So it's yeah. So I've had a lot of hits on it. To just perfect their. So it really is a good question, really. So is any other questions that I've gone on so far? Right. Right, at Rollington Park, I was still at Heiniger, doing my job as a rep on the road. And I really never drank till I was 45. Never drank beer or anything until I was 45. Rightio, but I got this job with Heiniger. I should have mentioned this before. And them days, because I was a rep, I was a rep that went from all the towns and around, and my job was to entertain them and take them out and wine and dine them. And I said to my boss, I don't drink, and he said, well, Kevin, you can't buy a bottle of wine and take him out to tea and not drink, make him drink the whole lot. So I really, it was a really curve for me. That's really, I don't blame them for that I'd have a drink now, but that do you understand how it had happened, I could have said, no, I'm not doing it, but then I wouldn't have got the job. I'd have kept the job for a while, but it was really important to entertain these people because they wanted people to buy our product. So it's always a vicious circle, isn't it? So anyway, I was still at Heiniger, and they approached me because I'd trained a lot of people in my life, all the people that actually worked for me, I trained them, taught them to shear, and so they approached me, would I come and be one of the trainers here to train? So I was still with Heiniger and they let me off. And obviously I was lucky I realised that they thought I was strong enough to be in the company, yet they would let me go and teach these people to shear as well. But it was a payoff for them as well because I was teaching them and I was taking Heiniger gear, the gear that I was using to teach them, And anybody, if you drive a Ford or a Falcon, if you were brought and bred with a Falcon, you'd buy a Falcon or a Holden. Is that right or not in here? We did that, so the same. They were smart up here thinking, oh, we'll send Kevin out and he'll train these, he'll take all our gear, and the first gear they use will be Heineken. So they overnight, from me doing all these schools, and their gear went from there from 0 to 0 to get, people wanted that gear because it was, it was a Swiss company and it was manufactured really well. So it was really important. So I really was with Rollington. I've done that for about 20 years at Rollington. Rollington Park's at Boyart Brook. Good question. I take for granted that people know that. So all the kids in that who wanted to shear, they went to Boyart Brook. It still runs as a shearing school at Boyart Brook. It's live-in. So you go there, it's a 6 shearing stands, so 6. So you can have 12 to 14 students there. So they come there, they camp, the meals and everything is supplied. It doesn't cost them anything. It never cost them anything to come there. So it was a really win-win for the shearing industry as well, to Rollington Park. But they got rid of me at Rollington Park because I was too hard. It's really too hard on them because I'm really, when I'm teaching someone, you can tell people so long to keep the bottom tooth down. And if they don't understand, then, not that I'd go crook on them, but I'd be stern with them. So, but they thought that I was too hard on the kids, but that's okay. I deal with that, so they get over it, yeah. So I don't no longer train with them, but now the story goes on, yeah. Right, so just going back, 97, because I used to shear in shows as well. I'd come back and I used to be a very good footballer, as I said in the early days. I played. So my life when I wasn't shearing, I was playing football. I did come down to East Fremantle and have a run with them for a little bit, but didn't quite make it because I probably got homesick a little bit and went back home. But I always shore in shows, but I didn't start shearing in shows till I was 40. I was at 40 when I started shearing in shows, where I was competing against all these younger people that come through the grades, but I won the first show I went to, so that put me straight up into the open. I really didn't have any practice or any idea what these shows are about. So I sure on the first show won that, and then I had to go straight up in the open against all the real good shearers. So I'd won so many shows, so they have, it's called a master shearer. So you had to win 15 shows, and then you become a master shearer. 15 shows, and to be able to shear, to that level. So I was into that's the Australian master shear. There's quite a few of them because a lot of people, because back when I was shearing there wasn't as many shows, but nearly every weekend's a show now, so a really good shearer can get through quite easily. So it's really like, I suppose, becoming a master shearer. There's probably about 40 in WA at this stage. And we had the World Championships here in Perth. And when was it? In 1986, that's where all the shearers from all over the world come here. And yeah, we shear on the comes, but I was invited to shear in a crossbred section. It was a section, was by invitation to all the shearers. There was 2 from every country, and I was picked here and from WA. And I finished 5th in that. So that was a really, really good thing for me to be 5th in the world. Yeah, sorry? Yeah, really, really good question, because a lot of people, you see a shearer and, he sheared fast, but he might have finished last. So it's because he made so many mistakes. So they would judge you on, the second cuts you made, so if you cut the wool in half, so it becomes a second cut. So a box full of matches. So one little, if they thought the judges could fit that in a box, would be 2 points, you'd lose. So if you made lots of second cuts, you could finish up with 70 or 80 lost points. But then if you made skin cuts, then it was the same. If you made a skin cut, although it's only a skin cut, not a deep cut that had to be sewn, then you got penalised as well. So, and then the time come in it. Time did come into it, because every 20 seconds that went past, you lost 2 points. So every 20 seconds. So you couldn't be 2 minutes behind the best one, because you've lost 120 points. So, sorry, in 1 minute, every 20 seconds is 1 point, sorry. So there was 60 points you'd lose if you're a minute behind. So that's a lot of points. So then it's all calculated, and then you get your winner. So with your quality points on the front, they call them board points, and they're judged out the back. They turn the sheep over and everything and judge them. They have 3 judges judging them, and then they calculate the points, and and you come out with your winner. So the fastest shearer usually finishes last because he makes too many stakes to get there, you know what I mean? So no, we had to shear, and that was 12 sheep we had to shear there. Yeah, there was finished up, there was 10 of us in the final, so 2 heats of 5, so they had to shear 10 each. So when you're judged on 10 sheep, so I was very fortunate to finish 5th in the world to be there. So, and very unusual that any really Aussies, because most of the world shears are shorn with crossbreds on crossbred sheep, but we have merinos over here, so we're the best merino shearers in the world. But the Kiwis and the England, they're shearing crossbreds all the time. So once they get into a rhythm, and you have to shear 20 in the final there, so it's a big task. So there's a lot of little variations. So all over the world, there was there's England, Scotland, Germany. They brought a sheep out and put it on a box and shore it, the competition, in Germany, So they lots of things. Scotland, all New Zealand, all the countries. 39 different countries that were there, So. Sorry? A lot of them, from all those countries, there's 39 different countries that they come from,
What's the difference in the wool between a crossbred and a merino? What's the wool difference?
Well, like crossbred wool is really springy, so that's why all your carpets and that are made of crossbred wool, because if you walked on it all day long, a merino would be flat, right? It'd be squashed. But crossbred wool springs back again, right? So that's why they use it. And on a merino, like if you've got 1 square inch, I'll talk in inches, 1 square inch on the sheep's skin, there's 15,500 follicles grow out of that skin, right? Like our hair, they grow that, but on a crossbred there's only 7,500, right? So it just gives you a bit of information that how much wool is on a merino. So a crossbred may cut 2 to 3 kilos, whereas a merino will cut 7 or 8 to 10 kilos of wool. So, and that's why we use different types of combs here to, if we had a bull nose comb, like a blunt comb, if we're talking, the tips, it wouldn't be like a domino effect. It would hit one strand and then we call it running out. The comb would ride out. So in New Zealand, if you used say a 7mm, a sharper type comb, you would cut them a lot. So they use a 4mm, a really blunt comb, whereas we use 6 and 7s to get entry. Right, so there's a big difference. There's a lot of stuff that think, people just go and shear, but there's a lot. If you want to be at the top level, it's like any sport or anything like that. You've got a lot of things you've got to do to get there. So this is just, I was involved in the Heininger 100. It was, and I picked a team that I thought would, because every state was in it. So I'm here, but I picked that team. Went around WA, and because I knew all the shearers, because I was in the sheds all the time. I knew the fast ones and were clean. I didn't pick ones that weren't clean. And they shore the sheep, in that. So that was something Heininger developed straight around all of Australia. So every state done it. But then, of course, they all wanted to win, the other states. So they started to cheat. I talked about cheating before. Everybody wanted to win. So you're only allowed to take so much out of, clean around the crutch and stuff to, bunghole, but then, they started looking like lions. Only had a bit of wool left on here to take off. They're dollying them up so much. We call it dollying them up. So, Heininger banned, said no, we're not going to be involved. But people wanted to win so badly they would not cheat, but there'd be less wool to be cut off on that sheep, if you know what I mean. So they're cunning, very cunning people. So, and it is just some of the shearing feats that I was in. So at Mount Barker, because they'd never ever said, because I was in the northern, down there, and we always said that no shearer can win down south because they're different and they've got more wrinkles and all the rubbish that people go on with to try and probably dampen your head to say that you couldn't win. But I I won the first time I went to Mount Barker. The next year, you know, as I said, I didn't start shearing in shows till I was over 40. So the next year I come back, then the young guns, you know, youth triumphs in open final. So I didn't, you know, win that one. So, but I could have nearly won 2 in a row where they said you would be struggle to win. You know, it's just that people trying to push you down a little bit. Rightio, so this is in the Royal Show here. Bob Garnett, you know, I've had a great relationship with Bob Garnett. He writes for the Countryman. Anyway, he rang me and he said, this is the 100th year of the Royal Show. Do you think you could be able to do something for me, Kevin? And I said, well, I thought, oh, hell, you know, if I could shear 100 into the sheep, you know, and he said, man, if you could do that, it'd be right. So, man, I had a lot of goes of doing this because you had to, and that was the champion ram, that one. So if you turn that sheep around, it's on the other side because I made so many mistakes because, you know, but I tried on other sheep first, you know, because the wool was too long for a start. And I thought, you know, because they wanted to be the best sheep in the show. So I tried on longer wool, but, you know, when you put the handpiece, the wool fell over, you know, the weight of it. So then you couldn't get a clean cut to do the, and so I made, you know, put a 1 and a 0 and a 0, and then I tried to shear around it. But I had lots of goes. But anyway, I come with the idea, I need to go with, you know, shorter wool. But this is a Sam ram that won the, you know, the crossbred section. And I went to the farmer and with Bob, and he said, yeah, why not? I'm going to get a heap. You know, I was going to say something swearing then, but I was going to get a heap of, you know, publicity out of this. So he was for it. So it did take me a lot of while, you know, I had to get the handpiece, you know, because you haven't got much reach on the thing to shear, like not shear along this way. I had to go with a comb in that way and go around, if you know what I mean. So it wasn't easy to do. So that was how that got on there, yeah. Yeah, they look at you all right, don't worry. Yeah, like we used to always, you know, years ago when I was up north, you know, you'd look out there, you know, because you had shutters that your stand was along here, and you'd look out there, and you know, years ago the mobs would come in at 4,000 or 5,000, come in, you know, like these big weathers, you know, like one and you know, just looked like they were singing a song as they come in, you know, gonna kill a few shearers today, you know, gonna kill a few shearers today. That's just how they pranced, if you know what I mean. But yeah, but like for a shearer, he is a predator to a sheep, right? Because if you don't know, like lions and everything, their eyes are right in front, right? So lions and everything, like they're, you know, we're a predator to the lion. So sheep eyes are at the side, right? So our eyes are in front. So as soon as we walk in the pen, he thinks he's going to be eaten or attacked. If you know, do you understand? You know, like if you're in the real world, you run out there, you run across a lion. His eyes are right in front. Any move you make, so but we've got to be able to catch them quickly and get them over. But you know, that was just giving you an idea what, you know, we are a predator to. Same with dogs, their eyes are in front, aren't they? So that's why sheepdogs are really good, because they can trick the sheep. Yeah. Rightio. Now on to my awards. So. And I didn't really put my hand up to get these awards. It's just that, you know, people around me have, you know, and I've associated myself all my life with good people, and I hope you have as well. If you surround yourself with good people, you become a good person. And I tell these kids that all the time. You surround yourself with people who do the wrong thing, what are you going to come? You're going to do little naughty things, rightio, when I'm teaching kids. So. Right, so some of my awards. So this is where I won the Hall of Fame. You know, it was done by Amanda and our association here. You know, I didn't know anything about this. All of a sudden they ring me from New South Wales. Well, I come to New South Wales to the, you know, to the ceremony, and I thought, hell, what's happened? And they said, you've won. You know, there's only 5 every 2 years that get picked from all of Australia. Of all the shearers are out there at the moment, there's about 4,000 shearers in Australia that shear, that, you know, professionals. So I was one of 5. But not only you can stay in there, if someone nominates, you can stay in there for 10 years in that nomination. So they have 20 judges and they all get 1 vote each. So you write your story, you're only allowed 10 pages, or someone wrote it up because I didn't even know this was happening. And then the judges look at it and they, you know, so the 5 with the highest score become either women or men, you know, so I was really very fortunate, you know, to win that. It was a really big achievement, and that was the minister from New South Wales who presented that there for us. And another award I didn't really know that was happening is a wool medal. It's a wool medal. It's for through Australia for people. Those other 2 previous to me, it's Darren Spencer, he's in Contractors President, and Robbie Carter in the stripy shirt. He teaches all the people how to wool class. So Robbie works for TAFE and he's private here. So my name was thrown in there. So that's a real privilege, that one. That's for Australia, not just for the, you know, where the shearers are shearing. So that was a real honour to, you know, to be able to win that, you know, and unbeknown to me. So I went to a shearing meeting, you know. I think Ashley knew before me, but I was invited to this meeting, you know, and yeah. I wasn't even dressed up, I was just in shorts and rocked up there, and then all of a sudden they're presenting me with this medal. But usually you've got to go to New South Wales to get the medal. So it was a really honour and a privilege to be able to, you know, win that award, which was, yeah, treasures to me. I really should have brought the medal. I didn't even give it a thought. I really had so much happening in my head at the moment to try and...
Kevin, we're going to move on to the shearing school in a sec, but do you talk a bit about your contracting days? Sort of, yeah.
Rightio. So, yeah, I was contracted for 24 years. So as I sort of went north, you know, ensuring the teams up there, and then I come back and my brother, he was actually starting to run a team up, but he was a different person than me. You know, Linny, he's passed away since, you know. He was totally different natured to me. He couldn't really say no to anybody, you know what I mean? Like, couldn't, you know, the farmer would ring up and say, look, I've got 5,000 sheep or 2,000, yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. And the next farmer would ring up and said, yeah, look, I've got 3,000 sheep, yeah, I'll be there on Wednesday. But how could he shear the 5,000 sheep to get there on Wednesday? So he didn't have the courage, you know, bless his soul, to say, no, look, I want to do the job, but I can't get there till a month's time. But his idea was thinking, hell, if I lock him in a bit, and then I'll ring him back and say, no, I'm not going to get there for a fortnight, you know what I mean? But went down like a lead balloon, if you can understand. So, but I was different natured, so I was structured. Though I couldn't read and write, my ex-wife, you know, really done all my stuff and had everything, all my ducks in a row. So, and I had the courage to ring him and say, no, I'm not going to be there till Wednesday or whatever, but you're okay if you want to get somebody else. But I knew that there was nobody else available because everybody's in the same situation, you know. So it's the same these days. That's why contractors here, they're really struggling if they can't get shearers, but the farmers have got to understand that they can't just pluck these shearers out of the thin air, because a lot of the shearers come from New Zealand in here to fill up our void. So they can come in. So it's actually why we've twigged onto what Ashley is doing to teach all these young kids. So then I became a contractor, so I took it over from him. It didn't cost me anything because he was sick of it by then. He only done it for about 5 minutes. But he couldn't deal with the pressure, if you know what I mean. So whereas I thrived on it. And he was a drinker and I wasn't a drinker, so I was really straight down the line. Whereas if you want to be a boss, you can't, you know, tell them to work all day and then go and drink with them at night. You can't, it just doesn't work, because then you get to the work next day and they've got a hangover or whatever. Come on, Bill or Tom, you've got to get, oh man, my head, you know, I need to sit down. I said, like hell, you're going to sit down. You just get down there and you can sit down at 10 o'clock or whatever. So I had that courage. Yeah.
What's the urgency about sheep being sheared? I mean, when you say they want it today or next week, why can't they wait? Do they have to be sheared at a certain time?
Well, yeah, they do. Like, wool keeps growing, right? Wool never stops growing, so 12 months gives you the best value, return, right? Right, so if it's, you know, like that double fleece, the one I saw earlier, the wool's this long, it's only going to be worth, you know, $2 against the wool that is premium is going to be worth, you know, $10 at this stage. So the urgency, they don't want it to be overgrown, you know, because they'll get docked. They'll get docked, you know, for being overgrown. So it's actually now it's becoming harder because, you know, the world market wants the wool shorter. They want it shorter. They want a 60 or 70 mil now, right? So, but wool grows at about 100 to 120 for 12 months, right? So now the contractor's got the problems now of trying to get a team to go in because you're the farmer now, right? And you've shorn 8 months ago, right? It's not 12 months, 8 months. So, but someone's in your spot that shears 12 months. He's got to go to you and say, look, you know, I don't want to lose this shed. You know, he's got 10,000 sheep. You only got 2,000 sheep. You know, I don't want to lose his shed because he wants to shear in your spot, right? So that becomes an issue for them because now the people are shearing every 6 to 8 months. But then there's other people who only want to shear 12 months. Yeah. So that gives you a little bit of an idea what happens. Yeah. Well, they do. That's what actually happens. Every town's got their own contractors. Like Mike Henderson, he's in Dongra. He's probably the biggest contractor now, but he's got teams scattered around, you know. So, but a lot of people don't, you know, have that responsibility these days. You've got so much. If you're the boss of a shearing team, you've got all these people who are working for you, say up to 20 or 30 people, want to sub every night. You know, they go into the pub and spend their money. So the next day they go and shear 100 sheep or 50 sheep, and then they, well, the shed end, they, you know, want a sub, unless you have the courage to say no, but they don't want to lose the workers, so they weaken and give the people the money. You know, a lot of people, you know, if they're in debt to me, you know, I want to keep you on, don't you? So that actually keeps people working there, if you know what I mean. So, and it's really fickle at this moment. Everybody's trying to snatch, like if yous were all shearers and I was a contractor, man, I'd come in here and I'd be trying to pinch all yous. I'd be trying to get you to come with my sheep are better. They're, you know, really good over here. I'm going to try and snatch yous from your contractor because I'm struggling at the moment. We're struggling to get shearers. So they've had to tell the farmers they've just got to wait in line. Like over in New South Wales at the moment, they're paying up to $5 a head to try and get the sheep shorn. So whereas the ward is only, the minimum ward's $3.20, but they're paying nearly $2 more. Right, all you shearers, so you can shear, you can come, you can come, you can come. I'll pay you $5. But they can't sustain that, if you know what I mean. They can't sustain it because, you know, at the end of the day, they've got to charge the farmer, instead of being, say, $9 for contract, that's paying shed staff, all the things, and your workers' comp, you know, your payroll, you know, all these things. And that's why contractors fade away because they, you know, they've got to keep charging them. Unless they've got a fast team, you know, like they're all shearing 200 a day, there's 1,000 sheep they're shorn, you know, for the day. Then all out of that 1,000 a day, they might charge $9. So that's $9,000 earned. Sounds like a lot of money, but the shearer's going to take $4. So there's half the money gone, right? But if you're only shearing, say, 700 a day, so your money comes down, so the margin is really shrinks. Because, you know, you become a tax lawyer, don't you? You know, if you're a boss, workers' comp, tax, payroll, all these sort of things that come off the top, but you've got to add it onto your bill. So that's why, yeah, it's really struggling. If you can get a fast team, and that's why it's hard when we get onto the shearer training, is how do you get these kids quicker to get a job? So if they don't do 80 a day, the contractor's got to pay them, you know, because they don't make wages. So they've got to top them up, and that's a real struggle. Yeah, right. Yeah. Wait, I'll just do this one first.
Why do they need the wool shorter now? Are they changing their manufacturing process?
No, not changing it, but you know, obviously they can. In China, they buy nearly all our wool. Probably more beneficial to them. I couldn't really tell you that. Yeah, but I'd say it'd be something to do with. Wouldn't be the, you know, process. That's what they do with the wool once it becomes, you know, yarn. Yep.
How long it takes for the young guy to become a capable shearer to join the team?
Right, really, really good question. So, how long's a bit of string? But a good shearer, some who want to do it, can do it really quick. We had a young student, Aboriginal boy, you know, the last school at Nungaran, never been in a shed before. But man, the other students were there for 10 days and he was shearing, and he got a job straight after that doing 20 a day. So he was doing virtually 80 a day after 10 days, where other students couldn't, still couldn't memorise, and because a lot of other stuff goes on. If your memory's gone, there's something happened, like either doing something or, don't get into that, but he was dedicated enough to, he was clean and he wanted to just do it so badly. And I asked the question in front of them all. I said, how come, Stephen, how come you can shear 10 a run right now, and yet these others can't even, do part of the sheep? And it was a good answer. He said, because I want to do it badly. And he was like me. I just want to do it that bad that I didn't have any obstacles, in front of you. So, but there's, I'll go into it a little bit more. And there's so many other handouts these days, because a lot of, it doesn't matter who you are, if you've been getting the dole or whatever, the work ethic is not there, getting out of bed and stuff like that. They're really good questions. So just a little bit on the contracting. So I've done that on, for 24 years I contracted all over, Perenjori and neighbouring areas. So I was very fortunate. It was good for me, really, because really I was strict. I had really good shearers, and I had fast shearers with me, so I really, made it into a business for myself. So, but that's what contractors are like now. They're really quite strict. There's so many other options now. You really, shearers are smokers and drinkers and fighters. But now there's no smoking in the sheds, and but sort of the drugs sort of taken over a little bit these days, because you can't detect it, they come in to shear, so no, I'm not on drugs, I'm not on what, but you can't pinpoint anybody to say.
Does the farmer supply accommodation on the farm when you go, or do you sort of run back to the nearest town each day?
Yeah, used to, when probably up to 20 years ago, like every farmer would put you up, you'd stay on the job, but now, they all, because once cars come in, they all had the car, they all want to drive to work, and that becomes an issue as well, because they can knock off early, like, when you work your 8 hours, but now they're really, because they'll say to you, oh yeah, we only have to work 37 hours a week, which is fine, but the real job is, 40 hours. So, these days they knock off at 5 o'clock, but that's obviously the contractor lets them do them, but not for me. I want, like that's where you make the last half hours where the contractor makes all his money, because if you knock off a half an hour early, they show you, say you've got a 5 stand, you've got 50 sheep shorn, that's only 10 every half hour. That's $9, $450. You've got to pay the shearers, but you've still got to pay the shed staff till 5:30 anyway. So you've lost probably $250 for a week. There's 1,200 just been knocking off at 5 o'clock, you see.
Are merino sheep only found in Australia?
No, that's a good question, but merinos come into Australia, but now in New Zealand they've got merinos now, so, and South Africa. So
they came from South Africa, didn't they?
Oh, they come from, no, they come from Spain.
But why are they not elsewhere then? Why just in the southern hemisphere, for instance?
Well, I think they're too wet in most of them other countries. Australia was more barren, and whereas it wasn't much rain. But they did, they were merinos when they come up here, but they only had probably 4 pounds of wool on them when they first come in. But the breeding in Australia and the conditions have got sheep up to 9 and 10 kilos of wool on them. So the breeding, and Australia, whether they made a blue or whatever, they sold our rams to, China's probably got as more wool than we do. Right, China's got more sheep than we have. No, but sheep I'm talking about, but so we sold our rams to other countries, South Africa and that, and upgraded there. But that, good or bad, who knows. So, but China have more sheep than we do, but they don't have any shearers. They shear them with scissors and stuff like that, the backyard type of thing, Right, so just, as Ashley said to you, you come and see me at the Royal Show. I'm always at the Royal Show. You've probably heard me on the microphone because I do, commentate all the shearing. If you're ever at the Royal Show, come into on the Saturday, you'll hear me there because I really can talk about shearing. But Ashley come to me and he said, "Oh, we're really trying to put together this, the shearing for these Aboriginals, and not just Aboriginals, but younger people into the workforce." And I thought this is a great opportunity to be able to do it. So,
Kev,
Ashley
just to set the scene, I'm going to ask you a few questions now. So, back in 2019, Alana McTinnan, you'll see on the end video, who's very passionate as well. As you probably know, she looks after the agriculture areas in WA. She came to me, I sat in a meeting and I was pretty intimidated, like she'll look you straight in the eye, and when she wants something, you've got to make it happen. So I was giving Kevin's name on a piece of paper, like, who's this man? And I'd never met him in my life, but I tapped him on the shoulder and he turned around at the Royal Show. So that was just how I met Kev. But back in 2009, so pre-COVID, what the industry was saying, and this is before the Kiwi shearers sort of had to go back to New Zealand during COVID, there was only 430 shearers here in WA, 430 shearers, but there's 14 million sheep at that time. Now we've actually got less now. We've lost we're down to about 13 mil, or just under 12. And she wanted across the agricultural sector, which is from the Midwest right down to the Great Southern. So that, if you can picture that, as there's 5 regional areas, and the wheat belt is the biggest. She talked about developing some hubs, and why not develop some opportunities for Aboriginals who don't move away from their area. We've got an instant sort of workforce, so that just sort of sets the scene. So we've, in the last, since January 2020, that first video I showed you, we've run 6 shearing schools, and we've got plans for more. So that just gives you a bit of the context of why we went about it. So, Kev,
I'll put my hand straight up, because Aboriginal boys are really easy to train. Really got skills. You look at them playing footy. They can duck and weave, and that's what you need to be a shearer, is really, looking at me and you think, how's that big fat fella, be able to shear? But, with Aboriginals, they really got that, something with the animals that sort of calms them as well. And I think that's probably one of the big things. They're really from the land. Yeah, so, just with a couple of these photos here, he was a really good young shearer, that boy. But he did go shearing for a while, but then he got a job as a roofer. So we lost him, But they're really, them Aboriginal boys are easy, because all you need to be a shearer is eye-hand coordination. Right, that's all you need, right? Because you're just hanging onto a handpiece that's going along the skin. But you've got to have your eye, when this, because your head's telling you, I've got 6 inches to go where my other hand is, my eye's got to be back down there where I'm going to start, because you don't want to go foot past where you're going to start and then come, because you've gone a foot past it and a foot back before you start again. So that's all it is eye-hand coordination and footwork, Sorry, so I just...
I have to say, it's like a back-breaking job to be. How many have retired with a bad break? Although I've noticed some shearers now.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it is. There's a back aid now, and really... Yeah, that was a struggle for a lot of the shearers, because their back was aching. You don't know the pain, and a lot of shearers can deal with that. And I'll talk a little bit about how you pick a shearer anyway. But the back aid come in and brought a lot of shearers back, that could go on longer. Because our shearing industry, the age is about nearly 60, the average age. Yeah, so it's old. So there's really the pressure, and the Kiwis not coming in. It's really putting pressure on. So that's why these younger students. So, like with this just young lad here, young Eddie, and I called him Warhorse, a nickname, because I really got, to just encourage him or whatever. There's a kid that had so much courage that, because he had cerebral palsy, I think, wasn't it? In his right hand. In his right hand, So he really couldn't hang on to the handpiece properly. And he couldn't sort of bend his shoulder, but man, he was just outstanding. He just had, and that's why I call him Warhorse, he had the courage, and he finished up shearing sheep quite easy. And he went and got a job, him and one of his other mates, but he was really very, very good. He just had that courage and wanted to do it. But then COVID, once again, the poor old COVID, because both these 2 boys got jobs with Mick Henderson. Well, they're there for 3 months, and then COVID come out, and they were really stuck between a hard place and the ocean, if you know what I mean, because their home was in Geraldton, and they were in Badgingarra, and the shut-off line was in Eniaba. Right, so we want to get home to our family. So then COVID come in and winter come in, so they really never went back to it, you know. He's been sent to another school, so maybe we can get him back again. So 10 days. Really good, yeah. So, and it costs them nothing. So, and Ashley probably can talk a little bit more on a lot of the things that the government had done, you know, to make it easier for young students to get into the game, you know. So money is always an issue.
Yeah, we planned it so that we'd pick them up from their home. They'd go home every night, so they go home to their own bed, and that was probably a key reason why they kept coming back. We supplied food, so we sort of followed the shearing runs that Kevin talked about. You know, the 7:30 to 9:30. Then we stopped, and we tried to mimic what a shearing shed would be if they go into the workforce, and finish around 5 o'clock. So it was hard. It was the first week. A lot of the kids struggled. You know, we do get some that you'd have to encourage through, and so because of that design, we do. Every school that we ran, we had an Aboriginal mentor. Now they looked after Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal kids, and this guy here, Barry Ugles from Pingelly. We've got a little video that we might show you him, but Barry looked after Warrenine Park School. It's a shirt there. We did that just before COVID. But some of the other schools, we've had the late Bobby Pepper in the Midwest, who's now passed on, unfortunately. And Craig Holder Senior from Yalgoo, and one down south we had a Colbung fellow, I forgot his name, but so we've had
Mark.
We've tried to source a local person who the kids can connect to. So like if Kevin was hard on them, they needed a bit of encouragement while Kevin was up there, then the mentor could sort of, you know, check out how they're going during their lunchtime, and you know, just to be there as a mentor and encourage them along, because it is hard work, shearing.
Yeah, rightio. So these schools have just been absolutely, you know, you couldn't put a value on it. You know, I know there is a value there, but to try and so send them away to where at Rollington Park, they won't go because, you know, they're homebodies, a lot of people. And not only that, when the contractors here as a shearing school, all the local ones there, they snavel up any of the good ones, if you know what I mean. The contractors are smart. They go and have a look, oh, he's pretty good. Snavel him up, so they never get back out of Boyar Brook. So these actually hubs have actually helped all these contractors, like at Nungarran. I don't know whether everybody's been to Nungarran and out through that area there, the little hotel there at Nungarran, the Woolshed Hotel. But out that area, it's really, the sheep are so big and it's hard to get anybody there. They even put quarters out there where they can stay on and stuff like that, because that's the hardest thing for a kid who gets a job. You go to Narrogin, I think, you know, who was in Narrogin, or, yeah, a gentleman too. Like years ago, the quarters are there, but Eddie McAllister, big contractor in Narrogin, but he hasn't got quarters, so you've got to find your own accommodation, and that's damn expensive to rent a house or a caravan at the park, or so it's really hard for those young students to get a start. So with the Nungarran one, 7 of those 10 students we had got jobs. It was really an outstanding school. Mungawalla, the first one, yeah, we got 4 students into the jobs. Then we went on to Brookton, really good, another good school, because a lot of Aboriginal boys around, you know, that area, and there were 3 contractors there that put, you know, 7 other students on. Rightio. So, and my job now through AWI is to go and follow up. So they've given me, you know, days. So AWI, Australian Wool Innovations, give me and Manda and other trainers to go and follow these students up. There's a lonely place out there if you're thrown into a team and you really don't know anybody, and all of a sudden things are going, no one can help you because they're too busy doing their own thing, getting the sheep out the chute. No one there to help. So my job, and Ashley's really going to employ one, he's got someone to follow these students up when they knock off at night, and time to see how their home life's going, and anything that we can help them to stay in the game. So it's a really, really important, and it's an ongoing thing. And Lana Martinen, and I've told her this, and Ashley will back me up, and I said if she had been in the shearing game, she'd be an awesome shearer. She doesn't give up, I tell you. She is tough as nails. You know, If you think you're tough, man, you want to step in her boots for 5 minutes, you'll know about tough, because she's really, and I've told her several times, haven't I, that she would be a champion shearer, because she has that, killer and grit.
It's a good segue, Kev. We've got that peeled prover school to sort of finish up, but is there any sort of questions? We are getting close to time, and we've got so much more we could tell you, but ask it.
Yes, girls are really, really good to train. They're really dedicated, because, like, if I can explain this to you, shearing is dancing with the sheep. You're dancing like around the sheep, so you're dancing with the sheep. And girls are awesome because they haven't got the strength, you know, to think, oh, like young fellas, they think they're bulletproof. You know, they get the sheep and just reef it out and do it. But girls are awesome. They're really, and I've taught lots of girls, because they can't rely on their physical strength. They've got to listen to what I tell them, you know, to move around the sheep, keep the sheep comfortable and move around the sheep, and their ears work too, right? Their ears work, whereas boys, man, they are tough to train, yeah.
Are sheep intelligent?
Very intelligent, yeah. Very, very intelligent, yeah. Yeah, they're intelligent, you know. Like we see them as dumb because, you know, just follow the leader. You know, you've got a leader and they'll all, you know, follow the leader. But they're very, very smart. Yeah, they know what's going on, yeah. So, yeah. So I've just got one little thing that I'm going to want to show you about training, rightio? Right, I've got a bottle here, rightio? It's got no label on it. Rightio. So what do you think's in there? Yeah, but there was something in there. But we don't know because there's no label on it. So I've got 10 students, and this is what I look at. I've got 10 students. So have you got a pen that works here on that board?
Yeah, what, black, red?
Yeah, anyone. So you can just write some of the words that I look for.
Up here?
Within that person, rightio? Yep. Courage. Because no line on here doesn't tell me this bottle's got courage on it, rightio? So I'm looking through these students I've got. Are they going to get out of bed? Yeah.
Get out of bed?
Yeah. There's no label on here. I'm looking at you here, right? I'm thinking to myself, have you got, these are the things you need, right here? Are you going to get out of bed? Are you going to bring enough food to sustain you for the day? Work ethic. Pain barrier. Big one, eh? Big one, pain. Will I keep going when I have got pain?
Oh, persistence is gone, yeah.
Will I finish the course? So they stay in the distance, right, 10 days. So I'll throw it out to you, some other things that I look for. Anyone got any idea to write on that board? Sorry? Humour, you definitely need humour, rightio. It's a really happy place, the shearing shed. It's really happy. Humour's a really good one. Teamwork. Teamwork, yes, good. Rightio, a few more. This little bottle, you're looking at this bottle, because you don't know what's in me. And I don't know what's in all these students I'm training, but my head's telling me, looking at you, have you got the courage? Will you keep going? Will you feed yourself? Rightio? Any more? Oh. Loyalty, really good one, rightio? Will you stay with me? Or, when I get you a job, will you stay with him? Or will you flit around chasing all the easy ones?
I've got one, Kev.
Right? Yes. Have you got the desire for money? And I tell the kids they need to get into debt. Why do I want these kids in debt? So they've got to come to work, rightio? So I say to them, do you own a car? Do you own a house? Do you own anything? No. Well, you need to, rightio? Because you've got a debt, you're going to go to work. Any others that you want to think of? Yep. Ambition, well done. Really, really good. These are the things. This bottle, right? I don't know what's in there. I don't know what's in there. So I might have a kid that, Yeah, it's soft. Problem solving, yeah. Can they go to the further step? Ambition. Where do they want to finish up? Rightio. So that just gives you, and that's how I train, right? So straight away, you know, I can look at someone in the shearing game, I just know. I don't know how I know, but I look into that bottle and I can see that person, you know, from his body language or whatever, whether they're going to be on my team at the end of the 10 days. So just a little bit of, that's how I train, rightio? So there's just one little thing I wanted to show you is here on a bit of wool. In this group, has anybody ever spun or knitted or whatever? Rightio, so on a bit of wool, I've got there one little strand that's hanging onto the whole lot, so it's really strong. But on that one strand that's coming, there's quite a few there, it's like a fish, it's got scales on it. So on every little strand it's got scales like a fish. So you can pass this around and you can feel these scales. So you wouldn't be able to spin if you didn't have scales on it. It wouldn't hang together. You know, that's how it ties up. So you can pass this around. You get a bit of wool yourself or take it and try yourself. So you just hang on to this end here and run your fingers along. And it'll be really like the scales are actually hooking on, right? I don't want to, but you turn it the other way and it'll slide along really easy because it flattens the scales. So if you're a spinner or you want to know, and that's why, you know, that's the only reason you can spin is because it's got scales on it. Otherwise, anybody ever had a jumper that's really prickly? Rightio, it's because the hair that's in the wool. Right, there's hair, like wool has scales, hair has no scales. So, and that's why it can't, when it spins, it pokes out the side, pokes out and pokes into you. But comfort factor is the other thing as well. You know, these days the wool's been developed to be comfort factor. So going back in time, you know, those really, you know, farmers used to have those really, oh, they're yucky jumpers, I tell you, they're really prickly. But so these days, wool is really, they can do anything with wool these days. I know it's damn expensive wool, but, you know, if you ever go and look at a wool jumper or anything now, they are so soft and light and because they really needed to. But I just wanted to show you that about, you know, the scales and that's how we can spin. So you're more than welcome to grab a bit of this wool when you go here. I've brought it here for you. Just, no, don't take the whole lot, but yeah, you can take, more than welcome to take some, yeah. Yep, we can do that and then we'll finish off, yeah, at the end. No, we'll do it right at the end when they're leaving here. So we'll do our last little story there on. Yeah, no worries. Yep. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, yeah. Look, if you want to...
Yeah, we're going to draw that, don't worry.
So
Sorry, yeah.
That might have to be another day.
Or anything, yeah. But sorry, I'd love to do one, but yeah, come to the Royal Show, I'll do a demo for you.
Maybe another day, yeah. So you'll find Kevin in the Royal Show. And look, just to finish off, thanks Kevin, that was great, and I hope you all enjoyed that today. I've just got one more video. It only goes for 3 or 4 minutes, and then feel free to wander out or come down and help yourself, and we'll do a draw.
Don't forget your little books.
And book. So yeah. So the last video, it just sort of explains. This was an improver school. So we've run 6 shearing schools, 2020 and one early this year, which comes to the 6th. But the idea of this improving school was to actually take that next step for the kids that had the most ability to go to a shearer. So.
Really thrilled to be out here today and seeing this great collaboration that we have between the Department of Primary Industry, the AWI and the Shearing Industry Associations. So the groups have come together to really try to drive skills training in this industry. We're getting a lot of young kids off the unemployment queues, out of country areas, into the shearing sheds, done some basic boot camp training, and now here at the Peel Feedlot, we have been building those skills, and it's a great experience for these young kids, working with some fantastic industry mentors, people like Kevin Galletly, that are really teaching them all the tricks of the trade and teaching them also important values about themselves and how to conduct themselves in the world.
Well, I think it's fantastic, these hubs, and Alana and Deepa, what they've done has been just fantastic, and I just would love it to continue. We've got a few of the students out into the workforce, and there's a good opportunity to bring them back here, you know, to work with the depot here, because this is pretty unique, actually, be able to come here. You see 15 stations working. We've got 2. That's been outstanding. The students that have come back here, 3 of them are in the industry already. They're all actually improved. You know, I really thought we were going to struggle yesterday because someone hadn't shorn for a while, but they've all stepped up. They've retained what they're doing, and that's all if they can retain it in their head, and it's like riding a bike. It's been fantastic, you know, with Craig Senior being here as well, that they look up to him, and it's really been a big help. I think he's probably the type of mentor we're looking for, that can jump in there and really gives good advice.
Out a couple of blokes through the school up in the Midwest, and hopefully I can mentor them. Hopefully they can get a job in a shearing team, whether it's rouseabouting and then carry on with the shearing as well. That's my main aim. It's been good for me, as well as, you know, improving my own skill, as well as teaching younger boys the trade as well.
My name's Luke Maljali. I'm from Albany. I have a footy scholarship and learning how to shear now just for a backup plan. Went to the school, never touched any handpiece ever. Sheared my first sheep in that week. It was alright.
I'm Robert Jared Spate. I'm 19. I'm from Gelton. While I'm here, I just want to learn a lot more about the industry of shearing. So I've been in contact with a few shearing contractors, Brian Hipper and Jordan from Northampton, and David Fryer, a couple others.
I went to Wannerine Shearing Park. I went there to learn how to shear a sheep. I'm out of that school to get a stand. I'm now shearing on a stand, and I got the privileges to come out to another shearing school. I've learned this week a lot more foot placement, because if your foot's out, it's going to be all over the place. My plans after this shearing school is to carry on shearing in Narrogin with a new contractor, and I would like to eventually go around Australia to shear. That's my big goals.
I'm Zachary Langford. I'm from Pingelly, and I come to this shearing school to clean up my blows a bit more and hopefully get a job out of the end of it, and just really figure out everything around my shearing, where I need to put my blows and how far I need to go and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I spoke with Holly some time ago, and we discussed about where we could run schools in close vicinity to the city. We're showing the trainees what they should expect when they go into a shearing shed as far as the safety in the shed goes, and we'll run them through as a part of the Safe Sheds program. That's an initiative from AWI and WASIA. So we've got Holly Ludeman from Emmanuel's. Holly's a vet. She's taking the trainees through some animal health and welfare.
I think all the trainer schools or improver schools should have an animal health and welfare section. Our next generation of shearers and are on farms all around WA, and them having a real understanding of animal health and welfare is critical for their jobs. They're the eyes of the farmer when they're out and doing their roles, and they can importantly pick up health and welfare issues when they're handling individual sheep as well. We've been through and done a post-mortem, looked at any wounds that might occur on sheep and how to manage them, and understanding of animal health and welfare principles. It's been great.
They'll also go and spend some time at West Coast Wools to go through a wool saw, see what happens with the wool once it leaves the shearing shed.
Yeah, West Coast Wool showed us pretty much around, and that thing, I was pretty good to go there and learn about overweight wool bales and different lots and all that there.
Everybody starts off as a raw learner to start with, but nowadays it's harder for the young ones to get a stand, And I think that the contractors need to step up and actually give the boys an opportunity. What better time, the way things are with the shortage of shearers in Australia at the moment and the way the sheep numbers are.
Only take a few seconds, and who's got the courage in this group? Remember I asked you about what your gift was? Rightio, so anybody going to put their hand up and say what their gift has been through their life? Come on, who's going to? Yeah, rightio.
Silly sense of humour.
Sense of humour, I love that.
Silly sense of humour. Optimistic.
Optimism, rightio, yeah. Curiosity, right, has been a strength really. Anybody else got anything? You all had something, you all been given a gift, I tell you. Whether you have the courage to tell me about it, rightio? Anybody else? Good, good, well done. So you're really flexing, you're still very flexible, I can see that, right? Rightio. Yeah, Valerie, yeah. So this is homemade. You know, and it's from, you know, label to table. Rightio, the lucky one. Number 2, yeah, I knew you were 1, but there you go. I think it's 2, isn't it? I haven't got my eyes on. Or was it 20?
Yeah, yes, it's 2. That way up. Yeah.
Yep. Come out here. I'm sure it was 2 anyway, yeah. Yeah. Right. Yep. Thank you very much, yeah. Well done. Thank you. Good on you. You can try it on now. That's pretty neat, I tell you that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if ever you want an example of positive thinking and what it can do for you, overcoming obstacles and how if you stick at something, and if you find your talent, what you can achieve. Here's your man. Kevin, thank you so much for today. It's interesting and it's wonderful for us to be taken to bush every so often. It doesn't often happen, but to have that opportunity is just wonderful. And to see what you're doing for those younger people is incredible. And it's a credit to you and to the department and Alana and to Ashley for bringing you here today. Thank you. And we're just so grateful. Would you please show your appreciation?